Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a thunderstorm warning issued for the south and the east as this cold front is slowly moving in. Some of that's still remaining hot and humid air in the far southeast, which is getting nudged away, could produce a few storms through the afternoon and the evening. Well, look at the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So look at the storm risk through the rest of today, but also look at what will be coming up for the rest of this working week into next weekend, where we could see some briefly warmer air return in the southeast, but could see some considerable rain further northwards and westwards along the cold and warm boundary. Along that boundary, could see quite a persistent weather front developing. And the overall outlook for the longer term, as we've seen from the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, is for quite an unsettled and stormy pattern to emerge for the second half of September. As we saw in yesterday's video, which had an ex-hurricane moving up and bashing western areas from the GFS, we're seeing similar patterns today, but there is a lot of uncertainty on the positioning of any of these intense lows and their exact severity. So we'll have to continue to look at that, but by means it is looking very unsettled, and yeah, it doesn't look like we'll see much in the way of drier weather or any sustained warmer weather for the next couple of weeks. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you do start on the live radar, you can see we've got this weather front nudging in at the moment, giving some quite heavy rain. We did have a rain warning issued for northern areas, and it expires in about 5 minutes as I am recording this. So we'll see it on the weather warnings in a minute, but it is about to expire, so we won't go through it in detail. But this weather front is slowly moving southwards and eastwards, and it is pushing away the warm air. Now, most of the hot air is out towards Europe now, it's gone, but we still have a bit of warm, humid air, and that could trigger a few heavy, thundery showers, as we do have a weather warning issued right now. And it does expire, as I said, at 8 p.m. You can see there are a few heavy showers triggering at the moment, but no thunderstorms, no active thunderstorms. We've just had a look at the lightning radar, and we're not seeing anything as of yet, but some of these showers could ignite further through this afternoon and evening. So in the southeast, do watch out for those. And regardless if those thunderstorms do trigger, there will be plenty of heavy showers around. So most areas will see at least a bit of rain through the rest of today. Further northwards and westwards, we had to get through this rainfall in the last couple of days, while the southeast still saw some warmth. We are now seeing plenty of dry weather moving in, but it is fresher, of course, with Atlantic air masses. Do you put on the temperatures as of about 12:30, you can see in that south and the east, we still got the remnants of some warmer, humid air, and that's where, as I said, the thunderstorms could trigger, but we're still seeing temperatures here, maybe locally at 23, 22 through this afternoon. So still fairly warm, but it is getting pushed away, and you can see the blues and lighter yellows further northwards and westwards, indicating more into the mid to high teens, much more in tune with what we'd expect for the middle of September. You can see all the hot air that had been encompassing us for all of last week has now moved all the way into Europe and will slowly be dissipating over the coming days and coming weeks. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, you can see we have got a rain warning for northern areas, but it does expire in a couple of minutes, so I won't run through it. But we have got this thunderstorm warning issued for East Anglia and South East England from midday until 8 p.m. Heavy showers and thunderstorms perhaps causing some flooding and disruption in a few places. Again, if we look at the further details, while many places will miss these, heavy showers and thunderstorms are likely to break out across parts of East and South East England on Tuesday afternoon. 20 to 30 millimetres could fall in less than an hour, with one or two places perhaps catching 40 to 50 millimetres in a couple of hours, leading to some localised flooding. Lightning and hail may be additional hazards, and these showers and storms will slowly die out during the evening. It's high impact, very low likelihood, so very big uncertainty whether it actually will occur, but if it does occur, could be quite impactful. So I've got a yellow warning in force. I do definitely think there'll be heavy showers around, just whether they will be officially thunderstorms with lightning strikes and some of those more severe characteristics, we will just have to see. Not seeing anything too severe on the radar at the moment, but it can pop off very quickly. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the live radar over the coming hours. And if you have got any plans for the rest of the day in this warning zone, do make sure you look at the live radars. That's the best way to know when these showers are on their way. Now, if you look at the UKV, if we start on the precipitation charts, you can see that weather front slowly nudging southwards and eastwards over the past few hours, and you can see it ignites a few heavy thundery showers through this afternoon. Nothing too severe, but you see some darker reds in the centre of some of these showers, indicating potentially some very heavy rain and some thunderstorm characteristics. Beyond that, through the evening, slowly dissipating away, and that persistent rain eventually clears around the early hours of Wednesday morning. And by Wednesday afternoon, it's another drier day for central and eastern areas and southern areas. But for the west, we're starting to see the unsettled weather moving in. Now, this is going to bring some very heavy and widespread rain from northern and western areas, but what it will also do, this low pressure will push up southerly winds ahead of the weather front and will actually push in some warmer air for the southeast once again. And you see this weather front very slowly moves south and eastwards, actually becomes quite stationary through Thursday and Friday, and it could give some quite persistent and heavy rain. We see a bit of a waving conveyor belt of moisture developing there, some quite heavy rain, and wouldn't be surprised if we see some yellow warnings for rain, not because it's hugely intense, there are some heavier pulses, but because it will be very persistent wherever this does set up, as this weather front will be pretty stationary, cool Atlantic air to the north and the west, warm European air to the south and the east. Eventually that air will get pushed away, and you can see rainfall eventually nudging into the southeast, and you can see out to the west more Atlantic systems will be moving in. So a bit of a battleground through the end of this working week, where the southeast could actually be quite sunny and warm. Areas 50 to 100 miles further northwards, westwards, could be trapped under thick cloud and heavy rain. Equally, 100 miles to the north and west of the weather front, it'll be sunny but fresher as well. We can see this from the upper air temperatures, still just about hanging on to the warmth in the southeast, but eventually gets swept away by Wednesday. For eventually, ahead of that weather front, we see another big slice of warm, humid air, and it just about hangs on into the southeast through Thursday, Friday, and along that weather front, you can see that big temperature contrast of about 5 to 10 degrees, depending on the exact distance. That's where we see the heavy rain, for eventually gets nudged away as we head into the weekend, but still just about hanging on into the southeast. And this actually could, in fact, fuel some of these low pressure systems moving in next week. Now, if you just briefly have a look at the mixed level cape, you can see why there is the risk of some thunderstorms in the southeast through this afternoon and evening. You see there are moderate amounts of cape in the southeast, and again could ignite a few storms through this evening. Just need to keep an eye on that. But you can see through most of the rest of the week, we're not looking at any particularly high levels of cape, so generally just heavier rain around. If you look at the max temperatures, though, you can see in the south and the east could just about nudge a 22 or 23 through this evening and into tomorrow. Similar values, perhaps in an isolated area, but more likely 19 to 21, and widely further northwards, low teens or even mid-teens at best, with upper teens perhaps in the Midlands and parts of Wales. But you can definitely see the September cool down arriving for Scotland and Northern Ireland there, 7 or 8 degrees across some of the high routes of Scotland, as we do slowly descend, of course, towards winter time. As we head into Thursday, of course, we've got heavier rain moving in, but still 23, 24 in the southeast, perhaps, where we see that warmer air nudge in. And it'll be pretty similar as we head into Friday, but you can see the weather front there got a very big distinction. 23, 24 in the London area, up towards Liverpool and Manchester, 12 or 13. Much cooler, almost a 10-degree temperature difference. Temperature contrast there in the space of about 100 or so miles there from sort of the South Midlands up towards the northwest. Big temperature contrast being observed there. And of course, could feel some very heavy rain and make some very variable conditions. Finally, to Saturday, just about hanging on to the warm air in the far southeast, 24, 25. But look at that, most of England and Wales, much cooler, 12 or 13. And given this is 4 or 5 days away now, it could still nudge. So we could see a more widespread area of 23, 24, or in fact we could see very little and it could be completely pushed off our shores. We will just have to see. But you can see the battleground between some lingering warmth and fresher Atlantic conditions. It's going to be quite a big battle over the next 5 days or so. But we are pretty sure as we head into the long term that it is going to turn really quite unsettled. Now, if you move over to the coming days, you can see the low pressures moving in towards the end of this week, but ahead of it, we see warm and humid air. But as we head into the next working week, in around 6 days' time, look at some of these Atlantic systems, we've got this more traditional Atlantic low towards Iceland that looks really quite severe, and we've got two extratropical systems, one across northeast Canada and one here out towards the North Atlantic in general. And all this energy powered up in the jet stream is going to develop some really quite severe systems, perhaps around that day 7 to day 14 point. Here we're not seeing any big centre of lows moving through, but generally lower pressure with lots of strong winds and lots of heavy rain, and even quite intense lows moving there in the longer term for eventually right at the extended range could see higher pressure move in. So not seeing a massive direct hit by any ex-hurricane today from the GFS, but still very unsettled and really quite horrible conditions. You look at the accumulated precipitation, huge amounts of rainfall coming in over the next couple of weeks, all from those lows. You can see where the rainfall originates out in the North Atlantic, all heading our way. And you can see the relatively strong jet stream coming directly in from the west. So although, as I said, no direct impact from an ex-tropical system, we get all the indirect effects, lots of heavy rainfall and lots of generally low pressure. If we do look at the GM, see how that varies to the GFS. Again, we've got the similar condition over the next 5 days with variable conditions from the north to the south. Brief high pressure could develop for the weekend for eventually that low moves in for Monday, Tuesday, that low originating Iceland, and then we've got the two ex-tropical systems slowly moving in, and we could get a bit more of a direct hit there, 900 and maybe 80 millibars, no, 976 there towards the centre of that low, so really quite a deep low pressure, not as quite as low as the 950s we were seeing from the GFS yesterday, but still extremely low, could be a named storm, but regardless would be very unsettled as that moves through. And towards day 10 we're lining up another low, and look, another ex-tropical system coming our way, and you see that other storm is moving out, and you can see lots of very big low pressure systems around and a very strong jet stream carrying these low pressure systems, very similar to the GFS, slightly different in development of the exact lows, the exact timings, the exact intensities, but generally a very similar overall pattern from early next working week. If you look at the ECMWF, again, pretty similar over the next couple of days. High pressure building in for the weekend, for eventually we see that Iceland low move in, and it does start to develop some of these extratropical systems, and again, no massive direct impact from a centre of a lower extratropical system, but still incredibly unsettled. And by the looks of this ex-hurricane or ex-tropical storm is coming straight our way. The conveyor belt of the jet stream, look at that, is heading straight towards southern England there. Could be extremely unsettled. And again, look at those accumulated precipitation, just direct hits from all the weather fronts, giving extremely heavy rainfall across much of the North Atlantic. And you can see northwest Europe is going to be seeing a lot of rain in contrast to eastern and southeastern Europe. Not as much rain, still some rain because of thunderstorms developing within the remaining hot air, but you can see it's not nowhere near as widespread, as we can see consistent purples and darker blues and pinks across much of northern and western Europe, indicating could be seeing widely maybe 100 millimetres for northern areas of England in the next 10 days, with much of that to fall from sort of the latter part of this week into the end of next working week. So yes, extremely unsettled. And we can see this in a better way on the latest ensembles. The latest GFS ensembles hasn't fully come out, only out to 12 days here, because he's generally slightly above average towards the end of this working week. And that's with that briefly warmer air coming in from the southeast. See, initially slightly drier before we start to see more considerable rainfall in the longer term, with those temperatures dropping towards average. Sea level pressure is lowering in the longer term. Nothing just extremely low. A few ensemble members go to very low pressure levels, but mostly it's on the side of lower pressure, indicating we're being impacted by a low, but we're not under the direct impact, the direct centre, sorry. You wouldn't expect that, to be honest, for London either, unless we did see a bit of a channel low developing. So we will have to see exactly how things do develop, but looking very unsettled there. And the ECMWF is even worse. Yes, there are more ensemble members here, but look at those precipitation values, extremely high in the longer term, and no respite either. No briefly dry periods. It's pretty much a big, massive chunk of precipitation spikes, giving a very good indication that it's going to be very unsettled and perhaps very stormy into the longer term. The temperatures looking generally average to above average. That's one redeemable aspect, but again, it's probably above average because we are getting residual warmth from those extratropical systems pumped our way, which may mean temperatures at times in dry weather and sunnier weather, which will be around at times, could be warm and it could be low 20s, but equally it could fuel rain and fuel thunderstorms within these general low pressure areas. So yeah, not looking good in the longer term. So if you are in the south and the east, do enjoy some briefly warmer weather later this week. And if you are in the north and the west at the moment, do enjoy some briefly dry weather today and tomorrow behind that weather front. As towards the latter parts of this working week, it could be getting pretty unsettled as well. And that's setting the theme for the whole of the British Isles as we head into next working week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there with thunderstorms today and generally some very heavy rain coming up over the next couple of weeks. It could be really quite lively at times. Of course, we'll pinpoint those details when we do have a much better idea on exactly how it will develop. But the overall theme is going to be very unsettled, potentially pretty stormy as well.